Welcome to another episode of Talking That Talk Official Podcast, where we are comfortable and uncomfortable conversations. I am your host, Juice, aka No Ordinary Brother.
What up, world? I go by the name of King Exodus. Welcome back to your favorite show. If you're tapping in for the first time, welcome to your favorite show. Welcome home. Alrighty. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of tonight, which is culture shock, we have a couple of little current events we'd like to talk about. So we have this thing going on right now that everybody's tapped into, the sub-Titanic thing, where five wealthy people, so to speak, lost their lives due to trying to visit the sunken Titanic ship. Not to make a mockery of anybody losing their life, right? That's always not a positive thing, right? To see people demise. However, it's just very interesting the things that, I mean, I guess it's safe to say that, like white people do sometimes. It just doesn't add up. It's a lot of variables that just don't add up to me. You can barely get black people on top of water, yet alone just on top of water. Swimming pool. You feel me? A lake, anything.
I was trying to hold that in so
But somehow they figured it was safe to get into this small thing. Like, they couldn't even stand up in it. You can only sit down. It's like a black bench inside of a small area. No toilets, no, none of that. And it's controlled by a game controller that costs $30. But they spent $250,000 just to attend it. And so it's a lot of variables that just don't add up. You know what I mean? Just the other day, I was watching Cheapest Creepers, the first one. And it's been so long since I've seen the movie, I kind of it felt like I was watching it for the first time. So, these people driving down the road, they see this guy dumping some bodies down a tunnel, a hole or something at his house. These people decided, let's go back to see what's going on. Not let's keep moving, going with our life, but I want to investigate what is he putting down there. Then one of them was so clever, he decided to jump down there because he was curious. So I'm just like, yo, like I said, it's not a mockery. No demise is taken lightly, but it's just very amazing the type of things that this group of people gets themselves involved into when it comes to life or death situations. But when black males get killed by the police, the number one thing they say is, I was in fear of my life. So it's just amazing how this group of people can fear unarmed black men, but animals, wild animals, extreme death situations, that's not nothing to fear. So that's pretty much what I got on that. I really don't understand it. Yeah. Any commentary?
Man, listen, honestly, man, I really don't have no commentary over the situation. Honestly, man, I just seen memes the whole time before I even looked at it. I was like, yo, what is going on? Like, the internet really has no soul, no matter what situation it is. The last meme I just seen, man, I almost had a tear in my eyes, man. It said the prices went up when Mr. Krabs knew there were some billionaires coming to visit him. I said, yo, what? I was like, yo, no, like I said, man, it's the memes that people have, like, I don't know, man. Like, the internet is just a whole different animal, man. But to me, when I looked at the ship, it just was like mind-boggling. I was like, yo, these are wealthy people. Why would they get in that? You know what I'm saying? That's just me. I'm using logic. But
right.
Other than that, man, I really don't have too much on that. Hey, condolences to those people from what we heard. Like, hey, they're awesome stuff I see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm more so really curious on, on a conspiracy level, hey, were these men tied to something big? That's just me. Every time they say billionaires come up, You know, we seen it in the big things in cryptocurrency, the Cash App situation. I was like, yo, I don't think these types of people just disappear out of nowhere these days. So I'm just kind of curious on that. I mean, that's it for me on mine.
Yeah, but when you do something like that, they just disappeared out of nowhere. But this is my last take on that. Your Lil Plies, man, he made a post and he was like, "Dear America, after we, figure out what's going on with these 5 people underwater, can we please draw some of this energy into finding out what's going on with these missing Black children all around the country? Please and thanks." And it's like it's not to say that it's not important, but let's just be real. We have sex trafficking. We have thousands of people, children, adults, Black people, they go missing on a daily basis and it gets no attention. So I would just say be aware of the narratives that they put on the TV screen as far as what's a tragedy and what's not. One more thing that kind of struck me recently, I read an article about them approving, the FDA approving lab grown chicken that's coming, yeah, to select states, and then supposedly it'll take years, supposedly, before it really just hits a great push. Um, some people say it's due to like a food. Some people believe in the food shortage narrative. I really don't believe in it to a particular extent. So yeah, we have these types of things going on. How our food industry is pretty much screwed. We grow a lot of GMOs. Some people are pro GMO based on the rate at which food can be produced. Nothing we eat pretty much is natural. It's not in its natural state. We have a lot of hybrid foods. But yeah, this is just something very interesting to tap into. It's just how far we'll be able to see these things fully develop into the future. And it's just amazing to see, like, think about, like, what will American citizens be eating 10 to 20 years from now with this whole lab-grown chicken thing. So you ain't got nothing on that.
I mean, I do. I mean, listen, they're preparing us for the future of basically, how can you say it, homegrown meat to homegrown plants. I don't know if y'all ever watched like Futurama, The Simpsons and stuff, or even what was that Total Recall, where they have like slop on your plate, but it tastes like chicken when you eat it. It's like, and it look like turd. Like these are things that they already was putting it out there when you was watching TVs, movies, series. Like, hey, listen, this is what we're gonna aim for, but right now we're gonna make it humorous and just plan it as in the future already. But that's what really is coming into fruition.
Okay. All righty. So for the main event for tonight, we have culture shock. Um, this topic, pretty much in detail, will just be about personal experiences that we both been through to where we were introduced to culture shock, things that we feel can be impactful in a powerful way to people, having that ability to be able to have culture shock. And then you have some like negatives as well, where like the Western world can negatively have an influence over the Eastern world and kind of like screw up a lot of people's customs and culture that they are raised to live by, right? So we're going to tap into it. We're going to have a conversation in full. Recently, I had a conversation with a coworker of Asian descent, and they spoke about poverty, how their family grew up struggling, and how the dynamics of the household works with the men. The men really don't do anything in the house. The women take care of that. The man is not necessarily the full provider. The woman works too. They save everything. And, you know what I'm saying? There's no disrespect towards the man because of this. And it's more of a functioning unit, you know what I mean? And the kids are allowed to stay, you know what I mean, to 30, damn near, or past, until they're able to move out and fully function and marry and do whatever. And so it's just very interesting to hear different cultures, perspectives on things that as Black people, we look at as a complete negative. Yo, when you're 18, no, when you like 17 and a half, you already 1 foot out the door. 18th birthday, you like already gone. You got to get out there and figure it out. Don't come back ever. You know what I'm saying? If you come back, you're a complete failure. You know what I'm saying? So we had a conversation in detail. I ain't going to talk too long, but I'll let you go ahead with your culture shock.
All right, man. I'm going to go ahead and just give y'all the definition of culture shock. It's the feeling of disorientation experienced by someone who is subjected to an unfamiliar culture or way of life or set it fair. There's this thing I was reading on I think it's called Human Affairs. I forgot the website, but it was interesting. They were talking about like the 18 biggest culture shocks going on right now in the world. Right, one is being offended by perceived rudeness. And it caught my attention. I was like, everybody thinks you're rude, but to somebody else, that's normal, right? Yeah, the New Yorkers, they be like, yo, what's up? They're kind of aggressive. They have an aggressive attitude, aggressive demeanor, but to them, it's normal once they do it amongst each other, but some people can take it as disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
So two is not knowing how to greet strangers, right? Some of us believe in like, hey, how you doing? Or you try to shake your hand or be as friendly as possible. I know in Japan, I forgot it was Japan or China, don't quote me wrong. The bow is the very most important thing when you greet somebody. When you greet somebody. Number three is not understanding workplace norms. When I read that, I was like, hey, you know what? I believe every workplace had a different norm as I was growing up. Some was faster, some was faster, some was more laid back. Some had different things. But I'm gonna just go through the list real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Struggling to navigate the bureaucracy. That's interesting right there. Difficult with language. You have punctuality issues. You have accidentally engaging in taboos. Now, that caught my attention. Accidentally engaging in taboos, because sometimes you don't even know if you're engaging in something if you're not familiar with something. You might think you're just there, like, hey, going along with the program, but hey, here you are. You said something into stone, and now you gotta move with it or understand, get away from it. Little one is struggling to adapt when returning home. That's hey, you just brought that up right now. 10 being confronted by new gender norms. Now, as we all know, there's a lot of stuff going on with the new gender norms, and everybody has their opinion on it right now. But hey, I'm gonna just leave it at that. Being confronted by others' experience of emotions. Now, some of us don't know how to react to other people's emotions. Some of us are like, yo, you tripping. Like, hey, get out your feelings, or like, hey, listen, this is not the right time and place. So I like that answer too when it came down to it. It says inability to navigate traffic, which I was shocked. I'm like, that's still going on today. Struggling to make friends. That's as crazy as that sounds. It said the way the population is going and people are getting more versus being loneliness versus being alone is two different things. Loneliness is now increasing to some people, so like making friends is really starting to become hard for some. And as much as I always say, like I think it's weird to have internet friends, I'm like, yo, sometimes I guess that's just something that you better, make a friend like that. Not understanding informal and normal norms. That's completely different. Feeling uncertain about gift giving norms. Like you don't know, like me and X, we did an episode about like, listen, what kind of gift should you give your homeboy girl or something like that? Like you don't know, like if you should just show up with like cake or show up with a card, and it can it can always spark something different out of people. Like I said, down here, loneliness. 17 is homesick, and 18 is what we're going through in Houston, Texas right now. It is struggling with the new climate. These are just 18 different norms that are going on with 2023 right now. I just want y'all to get a broader perspective of what we mean by culture shock. There's a lot of different things that's going on in the world. But yeah, like I said, I just wanted to bring that into play. There's some things I wrote down that I'm going to be throwing out there as we talk. One thing was like one of the biggest things that I can talk about right now is rituals and ceremonies, right? When it comes to rituals and ceremonies, everybody does things different when it comes to their culture, their groups, their ethics, ethnicity, and all that. Sometimes we don't know if, like you said, you're engaging in strange taboos. Sometimes you don't know if you're doing something consciously or unconsciously and not knowing the truth behind it, right? It's, for instance, we always went to church. What is it? Blood of Christ, bread for the body, stuff like that. You have I know the people that was using caps at one time and like grape juice. I went to a different Christian Orthodox. They had a loaf of bread. We would just tear it off, and they would actually have a cup of wine. Like we dip it in there too. And I was like, okay, like everything is different from what I was used to. But that's just one of the things I can talk about right there. It's rituals and ceremonies. What do you feel about that subject alone? Because, like I said, you have the Christian way, you have Muslims, you have we see what is that? The Jews. When it comes to what's the day I'm thinking of? Can't think of it. Can't think of it right now. But yeah, what is your opinion on the subject?
Well, so y'all passed around bread.
Bro, they
I
had
ain't
a
never heard of that.
literal loaf of bread, and
The loaf of bread.
I was,
Yeah.
you know, we went from the caps, and the little cap, they had little bread, and they had the little golden cup, and we go up there, and it was different. So, like I said,
Hey, that's different. I ain't never heard that one. That's different. um, First thing I say about culture shock, personal experience. Growing up in Black culture, oftentimes a lot of us feel like we don't really have a true culture. It's not really, it doesn't have its origins based in who we really are truly as a people. It's based on what was selected to be given unto us. Like we could say, oh, a lot of Black people like fried chicken. Well, that came from slavery. You can say a lot, Black people love chitlins. Well, that came from slavery. There's a lot of things that's linked to oppression that we continue on as culture. So it's not too many of us that think in a liberated state of mind that think, okay, let's develop a system of culture that we decide. It's more so what was handed down. You know what I'm saying? So even like the phenomena of Black people liking watermelon, where it was actually like a commercial ad that was like pushed onto the Black community with these Black people just tearing up watermelon, tearing up watermelon. So that became like the concept that was spread around, like Black people like fried chicken and watermelon. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not like we had the liberty to actually pick our own customs and traditions that we wanted to stick with. It's no knock to nobody's religious choice. You brought up religions, but it's like, okay, here in the Western world, we normally choose from Christianity or Islam. It's not saying that that's not our true God per se, but if we were on a different side of the world, Christianity and Islam wouldn't be the only options we have. So I just kind of love the philosophy of when people are like, I live and die by this religion. But it's like, if you was on another part of the world, you'd have more options, so you probably wouldn't select
yeah,
that option. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
Hinduism,
Yeah.
Judaism, it's so much more out there. I wanted to go ahead. My fault. Did I cut you off, bro? Yeah, I did. I said, hold on, I had to take myself. I had to take myself.
Yeah. So, what I'm saying? It's like the whole philosophy of this, the illusion of free choice. Like, you know what I mean? I like Nike. You feel me? I like certain shoes and Nike, but you know what I'm saying? Once again, the shoes are already in the store for you to pick from. It's not like you're choosing what shoes actually go into the store. You're picking from what's already there. So culture is very important. We have to actually think in a liberated state. And the culture shock is important because the more you tend to study other cultures, you can see what works for them versus what's not working or working for you. And then you can develop a system. So that's how I envision people to actually run their households, not what's based on tradition per se, but what's based on your own study and observation. I think that's more impactful and powerful for people to actually move around. Um, and that kind of links into like holidays. A lot of you have people that show up for the holidays that's fully with the shits. Like they all for that holiday. And then you have some people like, look, it's the only day off I can get off, my family off too. So I'm gonna just participate in the illusion just to see my people. We have that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us, when we quote unquote get woken and grow into consciousness, we just like, oh, I ain't fucking with the holiday. I'm staying at home. But then as you get older, you're like, I could have went and seen my family. Like, you know what I mean? I don't have to say Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy 4th of July just to enjoy my family on certain days. So that would be my intro. It's power within studying other people's culture to develop your own system or perception of what you perceive as culture. It shouldn't just be handed down to you, packaged and wrapped up fully for you. So you got it.
Well, that's my gift, man. I wrapped it up for you.
I
But
would hope so. You wrap it up for him, man. I would hope so, man.
hey, man,
Look, bunch of little juices running around here, man. Little
hey,
Capri Sun pack.
man. But man, okay. So one of the things that I have written down that he was talking about is couple was food surprises, family lifestyle, and dressing alone. With food surprise, man, I learned like people are like in other, like I said, hemispheres or Eastern world. Some of them eat bugs, crickets. They be eating snakes, cockadoodles. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? You know what
And
I'm
that's
saying? Yeah.
luxury food,
Hey,
by the way.
man, listen,
Yeah,
they
that's
eat
luxury.
any other. They eat everything you won't eat within the East, within the West.
Mm-hmm.
But to them, is they do it like whether it's just it's good to them or it's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
before we do something, we usually eat this before we go forth on this adventure. And it's like I said, I remember there was like a scorpion tequila one time. It was like a real scorpion and tequila. I said, who's drinking that? They were like,
Mm-hmm.
they gonna drink it. Like I said, it's the foods. Like I said, the food surprise and different, like I said, cultures is always interesting, right? One of the things that I learned when it comes to when I hang around a lot of Asians or Orientals or whatever you want to say. I remember like their meat portions would always be smaller, but their veggies and veggies, their foods will always be more on the plate. And I was like, okay, you know, that's different. Like to us, you know, it's like, hey, yo, put more meat and less rice, less greens and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Hey, um, but like I said, even in different cultures when it comes to food, you find out why do people eat what they eat, what's behind it. It's like I said, when it comes to all this, it's always amazing to me, like what's always going on the opposite end. We talk about dressing. He mentioned sneakers. Like, hey, to us, black people was what? Nikes, Adidas, Converse,
When,
Jordan's. Like it had to be hot. Uh, one other race I always used to observe, I can say, is my brothers that have the Muslim faith. I like, yo, they just wear like simple sandals. I'm like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, yo, is that weird for us to embrace the sneaker culture while they could be so simple? You know what I'm saying? But sometimes when it comes to dressing, like as a kid and growing up, like if you didn't dress well, man, it didn't matter. You had the best education, but to them you're poor. And I think that's the wild stuff because some of the people that were poor dressed the best. Like they moms, their dads were invested to the best Polo, Ralph Lauren, and man, listen, I knew people that was wearing Gucci in high school. You know, I thought someone was knocked off, but no, but like they'll dress the appearance 100%. But then we'll go back to a Section 8 house, and I'd be like, yo, how? But everybody has a different outlook when it comes to dressing. Myself, as I got older, I liked the more simple route. Just keep it as simple and plain. And the last thing you was talking about was the family lifestyle. One thing I learned, and as you was talking about earlier with the Asian community, is Asian community and the African community, and I can't forget the other community I'm talking about. They do allow their kids to stay home as long as they want until they're able to go out to the world. But they also understand, hey, listen, if I take care of my child right, in return, he'll take care of me. Some of us is just really waiting on like, hey, listen, mom, put your ass in a retirement home. You ain't about to stay. Hey, listen, we know we're not trying to put every in-law in our house. Let's be honest. But in their eyes, it was treat your kids and your child right. In return, they will do the same for you. Because when you have the parents that be your parents now staying home, and you have kids, you now have grandparents, and you don't have to pay for babysitters no more while y'all work. It's like you have two different generations, two different thought patterns, and that's all being poured into your kids at the same time. And I'm like, damn, like, you know what I'm saying? It's so much that when I started learning about other people or just being within their households, it helped me out understand a lot of things. That's why I looked at this house. I ain't gonna lie, the house came with a separate quote unquote apartment within the house where you can put your in-laws in there. I ain't gonna lie. If it ever come down to that, y'all gonna have to have y'all separate space. You're not allowed in the house, man. You get that little apartment right there.
I ain't gonna lie, man. Hey, shit. I'll check you into the best place I can find, man. Top dollar. You know what I mean? 24-hour service, like
24 hours there,
luxury
all
shit.
that.
Luxury shit. I need my space. Need my space. You know what I mean? But moving forward, they gonna be like, man, ex evil, man. But all right, so another thing I can tap into is like something simple, like you know, you brought up food. You can tap into that a little bit more. Food and health. We have this dilemma within the Black community to where if you eat healthy, you eating white. Um, if you eating bullshit, then that's normal. And then you have different people's culture to where like it's primary that they eat like they get their fish oil, they get their omega 3s in the morning because that's produces better brain functions. So it's primary for more people to walk more by culture. You see a lot of Asian people walking, like that's part of their
Yes.
daily routine. Have to walk, get
Always
some type
walk.
of sunlight. Um, so you could really look at the races sometimes. Well, not primarily just in America, because America has a very big obesity rate. But I'm saying some people are still stuck to their own cultures and traditions to where they're a lot more slimmer than we are on average. You know what I'm saying? We have like a high obesity rate. So we were taught to eat the most unhealthy things, and that is normal. You go around your family, first thing you just, I think we all tap into, I think we kind of first give up pork. And then if we give up pork, then we're Muslim now. You know what I'm saying? Like you just go straight to Islam just because you don't eat pork. You feel me? You know what I mean? Then if
Oh
you give
God.
up beef, you ain't eating no burgers, no steaks. You like an alien at this point. And then if you eating fruits and vegetables, they like, what the fuck is that? Fruits and vegetables, salads? Feel me?
Mm.
So once again, we have to study where do we get these eating habits from? Where did they come from? What's the causes? What makes our DNA structure different from other groups? What foods are more conducive to our DNA? What foods weaken our DNA versus strengthen them? What foods produce more uh, hormonal balances? Some foods produce more estrogen, some foods produce more testosterone. We have to put all this on the table and make wise decisions about what we consume versus what people tell us we should
Mm.
consume. So it's just very weird and it's awkward because a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm the kind of person, if a kid go to a corner store with me, yo, you ain't getting nothing out of that. Barely. No candy, no nothing. And people are like, you're not gonna let the kid get candy? I'm like, and then I gotta be this militant person to get on everybody's nerve because I'm going ingredient for ingredient, ingredient. And they're like, you know what I mean? So
Come on, man. Let me get a piece, man.
yeah, yeah. I just want some candy, man. You know what I mean? So these types of things happen. And besides food, like I say, we have to very get structure into our health, and that brings about discipline. It's just something simple. It's like everybody want to look good. It was a post that I posted, like everybody want to look great naked, but people don't want to count calories. People don't want to exercise. People don't want to get the adequate amount of sleep. People don't want to drink something simple as water. It's so amazing how many people I hear that don't drink water. When people say water is nasty, I'm just like, wow. I had like that water boy moment. Like when they say water sucks, I get upset. You know what I mean? So we got to get our water intake. We got, you know what I'm saying? I know everybody want to grind, you know what I'm saying, till they can't move no more, but we got to get our rest. We got to get our sleep. I'm doing different things right now to where I normally go to the gym at least 5 or 6 consecutive days out the week and then take 2 days off maybe. Now I'm like, I'm going back to every other day. Fuck it. I may weight lift one day, next day, cardio, uh, home workouts. And then I use that time to let my body kind of heal a little bit, still work it, but then I'm using that time to get other things done, podcast wise, et cetera, et cetera. So every day I'm not just jammed up to where I know, okay, I'm gonna work this job, I'm gonna put in this overtime, I'm gonna work on this content, I'm gonna learn this, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do this. Well, you know what? Your energy's depleted and you're not really getting as many, you're doing a lot of things, but you're not getting a lot of things done. So health and food is something we have to implement into our culture. So you got it.
Oh man, I was gonna tell y'all real quick. If you ever paid attention to growing up, some of the same food that you get in elementary, they feed prisoners with. So sometimes, like, imagine that in elementary and in prison, y'all eat the same food. They get the same milk cartons and everything. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it kind of makes you want to go back and like, yo, did we get trained for prison? Like,
Yeah.
unless you went to a private school or say a charter school or something top notch like that. Okay, cool. But like I said, if you really observe the educational system for elementary and prison, they match up. They even said, listen, the school bus and the jail bus, they match up. And I was like, damn, that, you know what I'm saying? As I got older, I was like, wow, I was really understanding that. Now, across the world, their food is beautiful. I don't know if y'all ever seen any memes or you could type in foods like their elementary food. Man, they're eating good. They're eating good out there, especially in Europe. They're eating great, right? Even the prisoners be getting like steak and lamb. I'm like, yo, what? Like,
Right.
maybe I can be a prisoner and go and just eat better out there. Yeah, and then also their prison reform is they are some of them retrain retrain their prisoners for trade so they can be better equipped for the world when they go back out there. So it's this one saying I always think about. It was from a certain rapper. Can't think of his name right now, but he said, "Listen, he said school and prison really just taught me how to be a better criminal." I was like,
Mhm.
"Wow." But out there, they're making them pick up trades. Oh yeah, shout out to the brothers that graduated from Yale in prison. I forgot the exact prison they was in. It's about 5 brothers. They just graduated from Yale. While I
Mhm.
was in prison, shout out to that. You know what I'm saying? I was talking to X about this a little bit earlier. I said, listen, how do we stop a Pookie and Ray Ray from becoming one? And I said, it's weird that sometimes it takes for people to get in prison to reform back and start moving forward. And then when I seen that some people graduated from Yale, I was like, okay, well, you got nothing but time on your hand now. The freedom that you had is no more there. How to utilize your time when you're actually on lockdown versus that freedom, it really creates a different being or creates the same being. Because you got to remember, some things, when people come out of prison, some people come out with amazing stories. And somebody come out, well, like, I'm not trying to talk about that. I'm trying to move forward. So that's what I wanted to put in there. Um, One thing I like to put on the table is also social standards. That is completely different around everybody, right? We had to talk about what was the one I was talking about? Not too long ago. We was talking about the
Was it an
yeah, it
episode
was
or
an
on the phone?
episode. It was an episode. The episode we just did was basically talking about like
High level, low level
there
zombies.
you go. Perfect example. Social standards right there. To some people, being on a certain level within that particular environment, they're actually at a high level
Mhm.
versus at another social norm that's looked at a low level. For
Mhm.
instance, in those social standards, Dr. Umar, we was watching him yesterday. He's like, "Hey, listen, in some places, listen, women do yell at their men, and it's normal to them." He said, "Only over here, like, shoot, when a woman yells at another man, y'all call him masculine." I was like, I have my thoughts on there. Actually, I already know I got my thoughts on that. But I also had to really observe that as well. I was like, you know what? He's actually right. So, to some people, being yelled at by a woman is normal. But, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Social standards is different depending on the environment. Are you trying to adopt somebody else's standard at the same time? And we have to be conscious of those situations and scenarios and also be able to understand how to participate in it correctly if we do decide to engage in other people's social standards.
Okay, 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 okay. I can kind of tune into that one a little bit. Just really speaking about income and wealth, you have different types of cultural perspectives when it comes to income. For some reason, within the black community, if a man ain't making 6 figures or close to 6 figures, he ain't shit. In another culture and community, if a man is bringing home a decent paycheck, at least average or maybe even a little bit above average, is very workable and accepted. Um, and it does call for a two-income household. And then the focal point is out of that, how much do we save and how much do we invest as a household? Typically, the aim would be at least 5,000 at minimum. So these are the types of things that people differ about when it comes to culture. Um, Also, within the black community as well, we're talking about 11 to 13% supposedly of the population here, right? But $2 trillion in spending power. So the 2 trillion, 9 times out of 10, is not invested. It's spent money. It's consumer based money. You know what I mean? Bills and being heavy consumers. in other people's culture, it's not about being a heavy consumer, it's about being a heavy investor. So this is where the culture shock comes into play. If you feel like you behind the eight ball, you feel like you disenfranchised as a community, as a race, a group, a family, a household, whatever, study other cultures that are progressing forward and borrow the money customs. Rich dad, poor dad. You know what I'm saying? His not even his stepdad, but somebody else had an influential impact on his life that gave him a culture shock towards money. He thought work, earn income is the way. The culture shock was that's never the way. You know what I'm saying? Now, no disrespect to people that work and make decent money working. For some people, it is, depending on how much money they make. But needless to say, culture shock is always a great thing to implement when it comes to income. And then we have wealth standards. Um, you know, wealth standards are kind of debatable, but let's be honest, it's about the money you make in access and the money that you invest without it affecting your living. Now, if you don't make a certain amount of money in access, I think still being able to know how to operate money and make your money work for you still doesn't put you in like a low level, so to speak, because you're still being effective with your money. So, needless to say, Warren Buffett may get a 400% return on an investment. If you got 80% return on your investment, yo, be proud of that 80%. You know what I'm saying? Everybody goes through stages. So it's just about being effective and not always comparing um, what the wealthy are doing per se and how much they're making in dollar value, but actually watching what they do and implementing those same actions within your own. So that goes back to like generational wealth. Do you necessarily need generational wealth per se? It's a goal for a lot of people, but before there can be generational wealth, there has to be a generational wealth mind state. And once you get the mind state, then you implement the actions. And right, so even if you don't necessarily attain the wealth, you're teaching the next generation what actions to actually take and follow. So in the previous episode, I brought up the company Mercedes-Benz. The guy who actually created the company, right, in essence, never saw it blossom. He went through constant failure 3 or 4 times, reinventing. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even have the money to produce the company in the first place. His wife did. So it's times that investors came, ran the show. He didn't like it. He dropped out, came back, boom. So needless to say, Mercedes-Benz didn't become Mercedes-Benz until generations after he died. But he set the blueprint. So a lot of times we just have to focus on the mind state and the actions and not always worry about all the metrics involved with income and wealth. Let's just change our mind state on how we make money and spend money. And then we can grow into this whole generational wealth phase and make it a reality. So you got it.
Man, great job, right? Great job right there. Something caught my mind. Like I said, I wrote some things down, guys. I wanted to bring up the architectural style. I don't think people understand architectural layouts or some of the reasons why you think the way you think,
Mhm.
why you act the way you act.
Mhm.
We could talk from colors to how, man, I forgot how the guy brother was breaking it down, like the way the sun rotates and what it'll do within this architecture. Like I like to know there's science behind the buildings.
Mhm.
Buildings alone on why you think
Mhm.
the way you think
Mhm.
is very conditioned,
Mhm.
right? I remember going through 2 different buildings before. One had like the sunlight come in, one always blocked the sunlight. They both was facing like the same direction. And I remember asking somebody like, "Yo, is there like asking one of the security officers and one of the workers at one building like, yo, is there a reason why it's set up like this?" And he's like, "Listen, uh, more sunlight produces more energy. You want your people to be energetic, or you want them to be dull?" And I was like, "All right, I didn't think about it like that." So while one is thinking about like blocking the sun, it's gonna, if people get hot at the time, one's thinking like, "Listen, let's put more daylight and sunlight in here and produce better results." Right? Well, they even had studies in prison. They said individual who always was enclosed will most likely die faster than an individual who can see sunlight. It's a different, I was like, yo, man, I never thought about shit like this. But it lets you know how powerful the sun is alone within that layout. And like I said, I think X probably can break it down way better than me when it comes to some of this stuff. But I want you to pay attention to what's going around architecturally around
Hmm?
you. Yeah.
Facts. The whole thing, like the way the building concept was broken down to me is like most people that work in the city that work in these buildings, quote unquote, the number one thing that they suffer from is vitamin D deficiency, which comes from a lack of sunlight. So
Mm,
if you work an excess amount of hours throughout the day, most likely in these buildings, you're not getting an adequate amount of sunlight. So then, therefore, you get all these different types of things that happen because you're not getting enough vitamin D through sunlight exposure. By the time you leave work, it's dark. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And then some people actually break down like the geometrical shapes of like some of the buildings and
Right. Yeah,
compare
they do
people to
all
the
that,
shape of
man.
the sky. You know what I mean? So a lot of people tap into that. So then you have the whole like city mind state versus the country mind state, so to
Mm,
speak. So where people that's more prone to city living maybe a little bit more lazier, maybe a little bit more boxed in with their mentalities, and people that kind of live on the outskirts kind of like do more work. They have more land. You know what I mean? They have a different type of connection, different type of thinking mentality. When I moved into like a country city, so to speak, culture shock. I've never been around like white people, Hispanics like that in access, to where blacks were the minority race. And then, you know what I'm saying? So something simple as like just least lesser crowd of people. Everybody doesn't have the same city mentality, so to speak. So it's a whole different type of living when you're like in the outskirts versus the inner city. So a lot of people always actually promote for you to actually leave the inner city. All right. You do business in the inner city, you visit, you do whatever, but you want to set up shop on the outside, on the outskirts. One thing I can tap into would be attire. I think you could kill this one. We have this also this dilemma within like our community to where if you wear your pants on your waist, if your clothes kind of fit you a little bit more, you ain't got a million tattoos. If you into suits, polo style shirts, juice with the turtlenecks, and you know what I'm saying, all these things, you
man,
feel me?
I had to
You know
grow
what I'm saying?
up.
A lot of people would say that once again, that's dressing white or that's dressing whatever. But if you know what I'm saying, you dress more like culturally appropriate to the culture, you know, you got on your t-shirt, your jeans, your sneakers, your hat, your jewelry, whatever, your tattoos, then now you're dressing normal. These are the conversations that I hear kids having. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
within the
for
inner
real.
city communities. Feel me? So it's not even just grown people talk all the way. And then as you kind of like shift, you move around, you meet different groups of people. Some people actually look down on grown men and still dress like quote unquote little boys. Some girls won't give you no play if they like, look, you wear the same hats my son wear. You wear the same shoes my son wear. He in high school. You get to no poom poom for me. You know what I'm saying? So everybody has different standards based on the whole attire phenomena, but there's nothing wrong with, you know what I'm saying, a quote unquote, a black man, a black woman dressing differently, so to speak. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think we should live in a world where everybody dresses the same. That's a problem to me. Just because we're from the same neighborhood, same city, same state, don't mean we should all look alike. If that's the case, then we're having a problem because everybody should be an individual. You know, everybody want to be an individual in all the negative ways. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody want to be a part of a collective when it comes to building a nation, building a community, facilitating our funds, family, none of that. When it come down to dressing and looking alike, we all put, you go to the club, everybody look the same. You know what I'm saying? You go to the family functions, everybody look the same. These things need work, need attention. There's no such thing as dressing white or dressing whatever. All right, so you got it, man. Do your thing,
Man,
man.
one thing I'll tell you when it comes to attire is the one of us syndrome. Meaning, like, as long as you dress like this, we know you're one of us, right? um, the craziest part about always trying to dress like one of us, it works against you once you are not one of them. Automatically, it works against you or you're not one of them. So whatever situation scenario you in, if you still trying to dress like one of us, like where you from versus one of them, you'll already be out. You'll be like basically sniffing blood. It's like, all right, we know you don't belong here. So I want you to pay attention to when it comes to attire. Like myself, like I said, my dressing has improved a lot over the last couple of years. Even more so this year, it increased even more. One thing I started learning was like, listen, there's a lot of things I kept inside of me. For some reason, I wasn't ready to bring it to reality. For some reason, right? I talked about suits. I've been wanting to wear suits for the longest. I just be like, nah, man, I'm gonna be corny. I'm gonna be cheesy, man. I ain't 35, I ain't 40 yet. I don't even wear them. I ain't closing no deals. I ain't selling nothing. Like, these are just you gotta always look at how you think behind the reason why you dress at the same time, right? I always say, listen, for my diet personally, for my look personally, I said, listen, I like my stomach in, I like my chest out, I like my arms out, right? That requires me to make sure I stay on a certain standard, a boundary, and a diet. Now, one thing about the social acceptance of dressing like one of us and one of them is it opens more doors. I don't think y'all understand. I talked about a couple times that I went to the club with one of my friends, had on some designer. Dude was like, listen, I don't see nobody wearing that type of brand around. I'm like, what you do? They had a quick conversation. Next you know, we're in that section. The dude has a couple investments. He knows some people. Their relationship grew out of that. But like I said, he dressed like one of them. But in a scenario, if it comes to the let's say business world, what's the word I want to say, co-workers, you always want to make sure you are appropriate for those situations. I remember listening to Kevin Saris. Kevin Saris said I was dressing as a professional even at the entry level. He said everybody wears jeans and casual clothes and sweats and stuff. He said I came in there with a suit and tie. He said sometimes I'll just wear my button down with a tie down. He said I let people know I was ready for the next step. He said you think they didn't notice that? They did. That's why they gravitated towards me faster than the ones who wanted to come in casually. And I was just like, whew. And that says a lot. Why people want to always be the common and cool person, the person who's choosing to stand out, he's going to get looked at. He said what I was doing was training my managers that I wanted managers position. And then from there, I wanted the supervisor's position. And then from there, I was just like, yo, if you can understand just placing yourself in the smaller situations and seeing the different outcomes, you'll start doing it more and more, right? Me and X went to a little bar not too long ago, man. Came in there, 2 piece there with some loafers on. I was simple, but to the people around us, they were like, "Oh, you dressed nice." It's like it's finally nice to see grown men dressed like this. I was like, I'm looking at it as simple, but to them, they were like, "Yeah, this is how grown men should dress. They should do stuff like this, you know." And I'm kind of tired of the sneaker wear. Like he said, like it's. I'm gonna tell you this. Unless you're a dude that just already got the money, cool. But till then, like people do want to see what type of quality they get involved with when it comes to your attire. What we learned at growing up, man, when we was kids. First thing chicks look at is your shoes. What kind of shoes he got on? What kind of shoes he got on? Okay, cool. You passed that test. Now, as you get older, where you start mentioning your age, and they look at your tie, oh, that's a big problem, right? One of the funniest memes I see right now, even women talk about, is listen, I want this type of old head, not this type of old head. Now, the old head they talk about is the man who, you know what I'm talking about, right? He the one that's dressed dapper down, got the little polo down, he got the slacks on, the dress shoes. They're not talking about the older men who still dress like they're going down to a party. Right. So that dress age appropriate helps you in so many ways. Even if you feel like it's not for you, try it out sometimes. One of the best places I always say, listen, wear your outfit, wear your attire to somewhere you go normally, where you just stick out, and then wear your attire where it's normal over there and see how good you blend in.
Okay. And I might get a little smoke for this, but it's all good. I'm built for it. We just talked to me on man perspective. Women, the same thing goes for y'all. All right, feel me? I know a lot of women that want to be wives but don't dress like wives. They say you can't be sexy, but there is an attire to being a parent. There is an attire to being a wife. Can't be out here dressing like everybody else that ain't got these type of situations going on. So it's not just a man thing. Everybody should have a different type of dress code and attire that they push. The older they get, the more they change and progress throughout life. You can't be walking around with your kid with your, with your freaking dress on, with your ass on, lying, and with your OnlyFans account. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Man. I'm just
No, man.
for there, man. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
So,
listen. You got to talk about the bathing suits too. Y'all wearing those thong bathing suits even to the kiddie pool. I never understood. I never understood it, man. I never understood it.
Right. So before I get canceled on that point, so moving forward, um, the whole kids phenomenon, going back to that, how, what I'm saying, we were saying how black people tend to push the kids out the house earlier and faster versus other groups. I would just simply say, like, what I'm saying, we have to actually study what works in society. When you go through the schooling and the educational system, a lot of parents don't take out the time to teach their kids about real estate, investing. The kids only learn what the school curriculum teaches them, which is nothing that really prepares them for real life, credit, none of this. So when they leave the house, they know nothing about how to survive in real life unless you actually teach them as the parent. So, needless to say, these are the type of things that they need to master before they leave the house: credit, investing, income, budgeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Real life tools that they need to navigate. Being 18 or 20 or 21 does not automatically stamp and approve that they're ready to go out here and learn it like that, right? Because what tends to happen, they end up uh, going through having kids early, screwing up their credit, defaulting within their checking accounts or whatever, you know what I mean? And then what tends to happen now, if you look at what's going on, they say a lot of people that are parents that have children as young adults, they went through their whole retirement accounts and savings because their young adults aren't surviving right now. So now you're taking care of them anyway because you kind of pushed them out the house probably prematurely without them understanding the things that they need to actually navigate throughout the adult world. So these are the type of conversations that we need to have with our children before they leave the house, before they become 18 years old. A lot of people talk about how Jewish people run the world, but it's primary for them to have bank accounts as children. It's primary for them to have businesses before they graduate high school, not necessarily successful businesses, just so they understand business and how it works before they get into the real world. So these are the type of things we need to tap into. Custodial accounts. You know what I'm saying? You have different types of things that people tap into to prepare their children for the world. So needless to say, having kids is not just about feeding them, clothing them, housing them, and sending them to school. It's actually learning what makes an adult progressive within the real world based on wealth standards, income, and all these different types of things, and teaching them that knowledge and information. We got to get out of a cultural state to where we just say, well, this is what I knew, and I'm teaching you what I knew. Or this is how I was raised, so I'm raising you the same way. No, that's trash. If that shit hasn't progressed the culture forward and put us in the top seat by culture, not individually, then we got to change that. So you got it.
Oh man, definitely I would say one of the things that came to my mind that I wrote down right here was teach your kids to adjust. One of the biggest things is adjusting to the world, like understanding like everything is not going to come your way. Learn how to adjust your emotions, adjust your finances, adjust your friendships, adjust. Everything has to be adjusted as you mature and get older. That's one of the most crucial things you have to be able to teach your kids as well. And also, I would say, shoot, even as adults, we have to learn how to adjust. One of the main things I always say is that, me being adaptive is one of my biggest strengths. but also being adapt. In order for me to adapt, that means I have to adjust to what's going on at the same time. Adjusting, like I said, for everything that happens in my life, man, those first couple of steps, man, I be scared, I be nervous as shit, y'all. But at the same time, you can never see it in me. I just know, like, hey, this is what they told me I need to do in order to move forward. So I'm just gonna do it. Do it scared. Do it shitless. Who cares? Who cares? You just gotta know to keep making progress on your level. Another thing I like to talk about, as he was explaining, is like, listen, laws. There's different laws amongst that are like that are different for everybody, right? Some laws in some states are different than the ones where you're at. Laws in this country are different from the laws across the world, right? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember that exact state, but there's a state it's illegal to choke your chicken in the bathroom. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, yo, I don't think y'all understand from laws back in the gap to now. Some of y'all think some of this stuff is bizarre because it's current time. Read some of the laws that were back then. Some of them were very bizarre. One of the things I also say, even if it's not going towards a government entity, as I talk about laws, is the laws that people set up within their house or in relationships. I learned that is completely different, man. One thing you said I noticed all my life was you said, hey, listen, the man and the woman within the Asian community, they work hand in hand. That's 100%. I had a couple friends that they own, some of them own nail shops, some of them own restaurants. Dad and mom there the whole time. It wasn't just dad there. It wasn't just mom there, right? And sometimes, listen, the women were running the shop, and the fathers was doing the handiwork. Like everything was just unity all down the line. But we're getting to a point where if we like to pick out what another culture is doing for another culture and try to take the best things they're doing on a man perspective or a woman perspective and be like, that's what I want to roll with. Instead of like, no, but tell about the rest of this shit. Tell how they're working together. Don't tell them how he just treats her. Tell them how they're working together. Don't tell me certain things that's beneficial for you. Tell me that are things that are beneficial for me as well. You know what I'm saying? One thing they always like to say is like, yo, white men do this, the Hispanic man do this. I'm like, yo, that's cool, but like, tell me more. Don't just tell me the shit you want. What's in it for me at the same time? I say just like Kevin said, listen, relationships are trade-offs. But I believe it or not, if I'm going to give you something from this culture, what am I get? What else am I going to get within that trade? Let's be able to understand one another in order to make things beneficial, right? That's why it went from, hey, listen, let's get married, let's be husband and wife. Now it's make me a luxury wife where I ain't got to do nothing. Well, where do you see that at? Well, they do it over there, so why we can't do it here? Some of that shit is ass backwards. It's another thing that a lot of people don't tell you is a lot of people work themselves up to get to that level. Some people didn't even experience the luxuries of a good marriage until later on in life. Or like, hey, listen, we got everything. We can cut back now. You can stay home. You can choose to do what you want to do. Hey, listen, I'll invest into something you want to do now. We don't talk about all that stuff, But that's just me right there when it comes to that.
Man, and I can kind of add into that just a little bit. Marriage and family. I was listening to an interview earlier with 19 Keys, and he was like, look, right now as a culture, we're in the biggest whole phase ever, where everybody's just so sexually liberated to where the whole phase is what it is. We have every reason not to come together and produce families and every reason to stay separate but whole around, right? So what does that do? In other people's culture, it's like, boom, a lot more people, it's more predominant for them to get married and produce families. And in another culture, it's more prominent for you to be a baby mama. So these are the things we have to pay attention to. If you go to a job and you have like, a percentage of black people that work there, and let's say they're the minority group, a lot of the other groups are married.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then if the black people are married, what I've seen happen is that it's the older black people. I don't see too many 30-year-old and under black people at different jobs that's married compared to the black people that's older in the other groups that's not black. So society is pushing one culture to hoe around and beef with each other, and it's pushing other cultures to produce family and wealth. So, you know what I'm saying? You just have different types of ways. If you mention the word marriage, here it's traumatic. I don't trust men. I don't trust these women. You mention it in another culture. Yeah, that's what we do. That's
Yeah.
normal. That's the only way we make money. That's the only way we do this. That's the only way we do that. We don't have kids without getting married. We don't do this without getting. This is what it is. This is the norm. So we have to address our traumas. We have to adjust why we think and move like this as a collective group. Who set it up this way? Who pinned the man against the woman? We have to revisit all that and sacrifice the whole phase. I know that's the hard part. A lot of people just,
Man,
we
y'all
don't
don't
want to
even
be
have,
honest. We
bro.
just don't.
People have a whole
We don't
phase
want
of
to give up the
40 minutes.
rotation. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Yeah. So once we could tackle all that, then we could progress forward with our big issue with marriage and family. And one thing that I can bring up that I know you can tap into this one. I've noticed culturally, when black men assert themselves in certain situations, family, everything, it's kind of like a shock value. It's like a lot of people just aren't used to that. And the older I'm getting, I'm learning that. It's like something that's just unusual. You know what I'm saying? See a black man in a household, washing dishes, cleaning around the house, helping the women with shit, tending to the children. A lot of people will be like, damn, that's like a Superman or something. That shouldn't be a Superman. That should be a normal everyday thing. You know what I'm saying? We should be able to see more black men actually portraying these images on a day-to-day basis within the households. It shouldn't be the women that's planning all the family functions. It shouldn't be the women that's orchestrating all these different types of things. It shouldn't be the women that you hear with the loud voices all the time, making all the decisions and doing all that. It should be a balance. So when a lot of us, especially young black men, step into these situations and we like, nah, step aside. I got that. I can help with that. Boom. I can clean. I can do this. A lot of people, that's shocking to them. So Dr. Umar, he brought up a statement in a debate he had. We'll have this conversation later.
Yeah,
When
next week.
a lot of black men actually do step into these positions and let their presence be known, what I've noticed is a lot of women just don't even know how to take it because it's kind of foreign. Yeah, I mean, so we have to make that the norm where we just assert ourselves in different types of positions, other than what society says. Society said you're better outside the home. Society said you're better working with your hands, so to speak. You know what I mean? The women run this. So we just have to restructure our families differently. And I guess what Umar was saying in that interview was like, if black women had to do certain things on their own for an adequate amount of time, not saying it's the black man's fault in totality, that's going to bring a whole different energy out of that woman per generation, per generation, per generation. So it's like a lot of us black men that I've noticed that's within our 30s and our 20s, maybe even 40s, that's trying to rewrite that narrative. We don't get a clean sheet of paper and a clean slate. We're still paying for the sins of our fathers and grandfathers, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So just want to throw that in the mix. It's definitely a cultural shock to our own culture when we see black men actually be men in certain situations. And sometimes it's not always a negative coming from the men's standpoint. Sometimes a lot of women just don't want to give up their power at the same time. So,
Talked about that too.
yes,
Uh,
sir, you got it.
I talked about that too. I said, listen, much as people be like, listen, I'm not going 50-50 with no man. Some women go 50-50 just to still have that power within that relationship when a man is willing to take on everything. Um, Another thing when it comes to asserting yourself, I do for myself, experiences I have for myself and other men. I said, listen, sometimes when you assert yourself, you can do it politely, and sometimes you have to do it aggressively.
Mhm.
Some men don't even still understand that, right? I mean, there's times where I was like, hey, listen, I got that, and the person been like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and go. I said, listen, I'll pull my hand out and be like, I got it. She backs off. Might be another situation, same situation. I'm like, I got it. Look, and the person might be like, no, man, you don't understand. And then I gotta be like, hey, but they respond to when you get aggressive, though. We don't talk about the wiring behind your voice. Why people, some people can respond, have a different response of you being calm versus you being loud. And some people look at that with like, well, how'd you have to raise your voice? Because that's the only way you knew how to respond back the fuck up. So asserting yourself, I would say understanding the environment and individual and situations you're in, you know how to maneuver, right? I tell everybody, I was out the other week, man, doing my thing, right? Woman was like, yo, I could tell you're a certain type of man that I always wanted or like, but I don't see. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, listen, you escorted me from here to here. I went to the restroom. You're back. When you came out, you was right there at the restroom, right? We wanted to get to the dance floor. You grabbed my hand. You moved everybody out the way. We sat down. You're doing this, right? When you was walking me to my car, the way you walked was in a periphery of you being behind me, but you can see what's in front of me, what's on the side of me, and what's on the edge of me. I was like, yeah, a man needs to know how to shift his body in different situations, right? If I'm coming home, right? If I'm coming home, I'm not necessarily walking in front of her. I'm literally one step behind her. Why? I already can push her out the way if somebody's in front, but more so I got the back area if anybody comes behind. Because if you walk in front as a man, unlike the door, her back is free. So you have to know how to lead in different standing points and walking points as a man. A lot of men are not even trained on that shit. To be honest with you, a lot of y'all not. And see, back then, for knowing those gestures and knowing those placements and position, people look at us like a square. Like I said, hey, I'm a gentleman before anything else. I'm going to always act the way I always have acted because that's the only way I know how to act. So when it comes to, like I said, asserting yourself and doing certain things, people will, like I said, I do believe sometimes people will naturally shift into a certain role, or if they're still kind of new to it, as long as you keep doing it, then that role starts becoming normal to them, where they can ease up off the clutch. They gotta like be pressed for you to do certain things. They know you're gonna do it. So assert yourself with any relationships when it's time to, as a black man, in anything, right? I used to say all the time on the podcast, listen, I'm naturally passive. People are like, oh, man, you weak. Like it's better. That's like, no, I'm gonna observe before I react. Because when I react, you're not gonna know how to counter. You're not gonna know what to do after that. I observed too much. I'm like, all right, I'm playing. Listen, you think you're like, listen, you're scoring to make baskets. I'm coming up with a play to win the game. Biggest difference. Biggest difference right there. So stay calculated as well. That's another way you can always be assertive. When you're calculated and you understand emotions, logic, like I said, just people in general on the socials, hey, you'll come out on top, man. And like I said, me and this brother is still growing, and there's things we're still filling out, but we're also looking for people that's better than us in order to understand the next level and how to get there. So assert yourself by any means necessary, but also be observant at the same time. Just assert yourself, and then you don't know what the fuck to do after that. That's your ass. That's all I got to say on that part.
Oh, juice with the cook up. I see. I would my closing points. I would say, are you saying how a man can assert himself passively and aggressively, but a lot of times being more conscious of all the things that's transpired throughout time, especially within our community, our race. Sometimes we assert ourselves with consistency in order to break the image that the preconceived notion of us being everything that we're not. You know what I mean? So a lot of times it just takes a lot of consistency of us continuing to show up. You know what I mean? It's always, like we said in the previous episode, it's always power in showing up. So a lot of times women will observe, okay, bet when it's his business, he show up. When it's his work, he show up. When it's dealing with money, he show up. But when it comes to the household, it's not the same consistency. So a lot of times people don't look at how much time you implement, but the effectiveness of the time and the consistency of the time. So Everybody's caught up in this capitalistic society, but it's the consistency that some people catch. You know what I'm saying? And then some people never fucking satisfied, I'll be honest. But I'm just saying for the situations we can fix, we just have to work on the consistency rate of it. And a lot of times when we build our family structures and the women say they want a traditional man, it's trash because it's like you have to know the difference between a traditional man and a top 10% man. Because over time, the wealth standards weren't the same, the laws wasn't the same, and the family structures wasn't the same. So over time, that's where you get this Kevin Samuels persona from. You have to know the state income level of what it takes to survive in that state, in that city. You have to know the numbers and the statistics and the metrics before you decide to find a man or a wife and build a family. We have to be educated, self-educated, and we have to learn the economy of where we live at in order to produce what we say we want. Shouts out to Wall Street Trapper, famous quote he always say, you either have to change for what you say you want or change what you say you want. You can't have it both ways. So if you want this outcome, you have to know the difference between traditional versus top 10%. If you're not dealing with a top 10% relationship, then you have to make adjustments. It's not saying it won't become that way if that's really what you have envisioned, but then that goes with consistency and potential blueprints. What family blueprints do you have? What goals do you talk about? You know what I'm saying? There's plenty of dates people go on. Yo, they bring in pens and tablets to have important conversations versus entertainment and fun. So you can't want a top 10% relationship, high earning income people that don't come from that. And that's a lot of times people aren't real. You know what I'm saying? Even people, everybody want to hate on Trump, right? But Trump is new money compared to a lot of the presidents we had. That's old money. You second generational millionaire, that's not old money. That's new money. So we have to learn all these different types of things before we try to build our family structures and pick our mates and partners. So needless to say, Michael Jordan was 65% owners of the Bobcats, majority owner, 65%, couple of hundred mil turned into 2 or 3 billion, if I'm not mistaken. That's how wealth grows throughout time. I was having a conversation with one of my bros earlier, and I was like, yeah, I was like, look at what we were robbed out of. We was taught, go to school. By the time you graduate college, you probably mid-20s, some people probably 30. Then you work for 20 years, you retire. In another world is get to the bag, learn multiple streams of income, invest for 10 to 20 years, while another group of people is taught work for 20 years. You only cash out with your retirement, and you don't even get full percentage of that. That's another conversation, right? And that got to be a certain amount of money. Otherwise, within 11 years, statistically, you're going to be back on another job past the retirement age. So I ain't trying to talk that long, but I'm just saying we have to understand to get to that top 10% level, because that's really what a lot of people want. We don't understand the longevity, the mindsets, and the time of investing that we have to do in order to obtain that. So we playing the game wrong. You know what I'm saying? We have to start investing early, learning how money works, learning how to make our money work for us, not just working for the money. And then I think we can actually build our families the way we say we want them. That's how we can get traditional men. That's how we can get this top 10% lifestyle and all this luxury shit that we want. We got to learn how to get there. You know what I'm saying? Versus just pick the richest person. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got on this culture shock, man.
Man, as you talk about finances, I want y'all to understand. I forget if it was Wall Street Journal or another finance I was reading. Like, wealth is now considered at 2.3 million. so some people are like, yeah, I want to be wealthy. All right, 2.3 million. What's up? How we gonna do it? Hey, listen, y'all don't understand. Like, inflation is gonna keep rising, so that means it's a different standard every time. The 10% man making what, 6 figures? Basically 100K, 120K, 140K. I guarantee within the next couple of years it's gonna go up to 200, depending on where you are in the world. It's gonna go up to 200. It's just like, yo, are you gonna like? Dude, like I said, man, I always said, listen, if you're gonna be the average of anything, always aim for the average of the greatest things, right? if I want to be, it said if I want to be an average millionaire, he said if I want to be an average millionaire, or the average millionaire has at least 5 to 7 streams of income, then I know I need to work for 5 to 7 streams of income. If I know the average player is putting up 15 points a game, but I don't want to be considered average, I need to be aiming for 25 to 30 points. Like you can work with, see, the thing about knowing the average is knowing you can become better than the average. Or first, you need to make the average before you become better than the average. Man, my life's tweaking and stuff, man. I don't know, man. Might be some scary stuff going around here. But,
Yeah,
but
I
like
was
I
just
said,
adding on,
yeah, but
I was just adding on to that for your lights go out. Yeah.
man, hey, look, we good though.
Yeah.
We good, man. I got my candle, man. You know, got poopy last time. The candle's right
Even with the
there.
millionaire perception of wealth, it's like the reason why $2.3 million is not really considered wealth is because when you make your first million, you have taxes, right? So you don't make your first meal until you make your second meal. That's key. And then you have the banking system to where you only really have true access really and rights to 10% of your money. The bank has 90% ownership over your money. And if you have $1 million in the bank, they only have to insure you $250,000. So these are
That's it.
the type of things we got to pay attention to. And then even when it comes down to taxes, you're going to get taxed more out of earned income versus passive income. So
Tell them.
that's the culture shock that we need to
People don't
have.
know that, man.
Yeah.
You can tell people stuff, man. I've been telling people like, listen, bro. People like, listen, why am I making getting less money when on my income tax? I'm like, you make more money now, bro. Like, weren't you understand?
And marriage, they're going back to that marriage, the 250,000, that's insured per person. So if you and your marriage partner, your counterpart, have an excess of 2 million, boom, now you just protected, what's that, 500,000. So this is the way people build wealth. You know what I'm saying? So these are the kind of conversations that we have to have in the community. So, you know what I'm saying? We're not looking at this golden picture, and we don't have no actual GPS route to get us there. We said it, the GPS is rerouting after 20, 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, rerouting, 60 years old, rerouting, then you're dead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the next generation started at behind the 8 ball again. They ain't got shit to work with. So these kind of conversations we got to have. These are kind of conversations we have at Talking That Talk.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we do.
Sure. That's the conversation we have amongst each other.
Mhm.
And that's why I always say, listen, it's good to be around people that's older, same age or younger. The person younger might put something in your mind that help you jumpstart a new a new career or something of that nature. Like I want y'all to pay attention. Like, listen, I'm more of the hands-on guy. X is the stock guy. If I want to learn some stocks, I go to X. If X be like, listen, I'm trying to get some things going on. Like, what you looking for? All right, let me make some calls. Let me see what I can do. So we work hand to hand with each other, and you want to be able to put more people within your realm or your circle that does the same thing. We keep preaching it. You got to have a multitude of counselors, man. You want to have people that's in different careers, different platforms, different entities, different industries, whatever it is, to all aid you on becoming a better person or making smarter choices and better alignments in your life. Without that, man, like, shit, life is hard, man. Life is hard already on your own, man. You might as well do it with some people that's willing to aid you or you willing to help assist them. I done told people for, like, in exchange for knowledge and information, I work for you for fucking free. You think, like I said, some people took that opportunity, and then some people just told me straight up, no, you got to pay me. So I paid. Fuck.
Pay,
You know what I'm saying?
pay
You
for
got to
knowledge,
do
man.
what you got to do in order to make those advancements. Don't be scared. Don't be nervous. Even if you are, you still just got to do it. That's why I say I love the game, because I realize you can't cheat that shit. You can't cheat the game. And even if you do, it's going to fall back once they realize you cheated. You know,
Yeah,
you banked on your family's wealth. Then we find out you don't know what the fuck you talking about.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I brought up Michael Jordan. Shouts out to Jay, man. Jay, just no music involved. Sold his majority stakes in Duce for like I believe 785 million. Backdoor sold title for like 300 something million. Backdoor the fragrance he had 30 million out of that. We're seeing how wealth grows and how it all works. It's all about investing and taking the time to let the investments build up.
Compound
But when you
interest.
come
Oh,
from poverty and you feel like the world is not abundant, you lacking in resources and education, what tends to happen? You ain't got 10 years to let your money grow. You ain't got 15, 20 years to let your money grow. You need it now. So the little bit of equity you see, you're going to take it and run with it. You're not going to let it build and grow. And that's how we tend to like clip each other's wings, fuck each other over in business, not let things fully reach their potential is because we want it now. We're not thinking longevity. But in the real world, everything happens over an expansion of time. It's all about how does this portfolio, how does this equity grow over time? Not how can I cash out and make it as fast as possible. That's not even realistically speaking. So we got to learn how to shift our narratives. So I'm done, man. I'm done.
and last thing I'll say, because you talking about Jay, man. One thing, my personal quote, I tell people: listen, you are the product, you are the service. You push your own self. You are the fucking brand. One thing they have always done is constantly push out whatever the fuck they were selling.
Mm-hmm.
Place it in their music videos. Hey, put it on the shirt. Let me wear the shirt. Let me mention it. Let me mention it while I'm on this goddamn interview. Well, yeah, my new album come out. What do they do every time? Album promote. Why they album promoting? They promote their liquor. Why they promote their liquor? They promote their clothes. Why they promote their clothes? They promote their businesses. Rick Ross, Wingstop, yeah, Cheddar's. They mention their businesses constantly for a reason because they want more people to buy into it. So when it comes to this entire stuff, same thing. Remember, at all times, you're pushing your brand. That's why sometimes I can be relaxed certain places. Some places I don't want to fucking be relaxed. I am my product. I am the service. People buy me. You wonder why you ain't getting bought? Probably selling shit. Oh, nobody knows what you're selling.
Mm. Yes, sir. I'm not a businessman. I'm the business
Listen, I'm
man.
not a businessman. I just do business, man.
All right, man.
Yeah, man. That's pretty much it right there, brother. Unless you got anything else to say, man.
We could close that one out. Thank you for tapping in. Thank you for watching the show.
Man,
Make sure you
last one. I'm
tap.
gonna cut you off, man. I'm the last one. I
Go
gotta
ahead.
do it.
You
I gotta
got
do it.
it.
I gotta do it,
Mm.
man. When it comes to this marriage, man, I'm just curious. Not a wrong or right answer.
Mhm.
Do you think an arranged marriage would be more beneficial for people?
80 to 90% of the times, possibly. Um, um, and I don't want to say arranged in like the particular fashion of your family just pick, but even in a more logical sense, maybe more American based. You know what I'm saying? We had these kind of conversations how a woman can get married, right? And none of the, let's say the men in her family are of value, competent minds, real men. And they don't even get to approve the husband prior to her going out and making that decision. And the same thing, vice versa, with the man bringing a woman around his family. Like, I feel like first off, if we have uh, productive families of stature and value, then we could kind of live that type of reality. But sometimes what happens is the children of the family sometimes transcend the family mentality, and they're like the black sheep of the family, but they may be kind of higher in knowledge and information than the family. So then, yeah, them going out and picking a partner is different. But in a perfect world, yeah, if the family is of stature and value, competent-minded people, then yeah, they should have a stamp of approval over who you bring into the family, because the last name has to be looked at more so as a business move versus just a love choice.
Yeah, a collective
Everything
one.
has to be on a political standpoint and a business move. I can't just let anybody come into this family and take on this last name because it means something at the end of the day. You can't just marry into wealthy families because somebody love you. That shit don't fly. You know what I mean? So once again, culture shock. We got to take from the wealthy, implement it into our families on what works for us and see how it can improve us. But I don't believe this whole like, everybody get a free range and choice of love and you just pick what you love. Like that shit don't pay. Love don't pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Man, the reason I wanted to ask that, man, because I was out with one of my buddies, man. He's about to get a new position in the world. When I say a big position, I mean a big position. And as we're talking, we had this talk before. I said, "Hey, look, you know the lifestyle you're gonna get that tap on your shoulder eventually, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, cool." I was like, "Well, just know the next level after this, you're gonna have to get that tap." So as we're talking, he was just like, "Man, I make six figures. I'm competent. I'm networking. I'm doing all the things I'm doing, and man, I just can't find a girl." And I was just like, "Damn." Technically, in other people's eyes, he's the prize. Like, hey, shit, he's six figures. He got it going on. He's network. He's competent. He did all this major stuff. Like I said, he's a well accomplished brother. But see, one of the things he realizes in the lifestyle he's involved in is, look, he can't just pick anything.
Gotta watch my back, not just
he can't just pick anything. He says, like, he told me a couple times, he said, listen, sometimes the women I talk to, I purposely ask for their social media. So I might not ever follow them, but I just need to look at what I'm getting involved in. And he said, based on that, that's how I qualify them or disqualify them. He said, but some of these women have everything I want, but on a social media basis, they don't know how to tone it down. And I was just like, damn, bro. He's like, listen, and he just kept on saying, man, I'm going to the next level. I don't have nobody I can focus my time with. I was like, it's interesting because to some men, we look at it like we got all the time in the world. The more, to some men who make more accomplishments so quickly, they're already looking like, why the fuck am I not tied down? So I remember pitching something to him at the same time, like, hey, listen, for all the competent individuals around you, you know, your coworkers, these people right here, the people you network with, I was like, why don't you have one of them introduce you to a family member or somebody that they know on their end? It's way easier. I said, and I gave him plenty of examples. I said, listen, bro, I know politics usually mirror other politics. Or a family member that was in politics because they already understand what needs to be done. That's why you said these are all business decisions that they make at the end of the day. It's not just fucking love. Like, no, we got to represent this to the world. Like they said, it's no longer, it's no longer juice and juicy. It's going to be, it's the juices, you know what I'm saying? I'm just making something up. You know, you get that whole last name is everything. Right? Like they said, hey, the Obamas, that's a fucking brand. The Clintons, that's a fucking brand. Or people are like, the Fowlers, I mean, brother, he got it on. You see his chick? Nah, man, it needs to work. We are a fucking brand. We're Pepsi. We're Cola. We're Sprite, goddammit. Like that's my last little rant right there. Right there. That's why I was kind of curious. Like, some of these brothers, like fuck it, I'm saying what Kevin said, they looking for marriage. Shit, they just can't find the people to marry. Like what I said, when that man told me, like, man, why I ain't got nobody? I'm talking about, man, this, bro. We gonna say that man made some. We gonna just definitely say that man's up there in some money. I'm just gonna leave it like that.
I don't from on that, and it's kind of like what you already said. I ain't gonna be long-winded, but
Right.
you build your network for your personal value, your personal gain, no doubt. But I don't think you should find your husband and wife necessarily on your own. If you're not finding it on your own, that's what your network and value is for, is to give you leverage and access. So I'm like, why would you use leverage and access for everything else except that? Like, you know what I mean? That's what it's for. So it's not just a family perspective of like ordained marriages or whatever. That's where the alley hoops come from. When we all grew up, first thing dudes would ask each other from the culture, hey, she got a sister, she got a friend, she got this, she got that.
You got a friend, you got a
friend. What are 304s at? You know what I'm saying? So when you get older and you work up your value, you need to be like, hey, what are real women at? What are like-minded women at? Some people like look down on it when also when men of high value base their interests of of women off of purely looks alone. That's why you're like, look, I need to see your social media. I need to investigate. So in order
That
to
background.
shift the culture, men have to put a value on their shit, on their dick. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Hold on.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to that's an extension of you. That's a value as well. You can't say I'm high value, but I fuck these low value women, but I can't find a wife. Like, that's an oxymoron. So everything you do has to add to your value as well, either add to your value or take away from it. So if it's just purely based on looks, then yeah, you're probably looking in the wrong places and you're basing your interests off the wrong things. So that's all, man. Mostly when men increase in value, even the women with the looks per se still attract to the value of the man versus him attracting to their looks and chasing them down. I'm sorry. When he become the prize, they come to you.
The prize and the catch. It's two different things. You can be the prize, but I'm the catch. All right, man. That's all, man. That's all I got, man.
All
That's all I got.
right, man. Up top, we got Noah in there, brother. I go by the name of King Exodus. We appreciate your time. Thank you for tapping in. Our next episode, we might do a reaction video to the Dr. Umar Johnson Infotunde interview he did with those brothers, the little debate he had.
Wrap up crew, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Wake up, Papa Consciousness. What do you call it? Yeah. Prince of Pan-Africanism. We're going to do that one. Make sure y'all tap in for that one on the live. It's going to be an amazing episode. Tap into the YouTube channel. We got the links in our bios. We out.
All right, y'all. Peace.